There's a 2-liter soda bottle sitting in my rose bed right now. The label is peeled off, the bottom is cut clean away, and it is turned upside down over what looks like a bare green stick poking out of the dirt. My neighbor walked past my front garden last week and asked if I had started a little recycling pile out there among the roses. Honey, that bottle is doing something folks pay good money for. Underneath it, that plain green stick is growing itself into a whole new rose bush. Not from seed, not from the garden center. It came off my favorite pink climbing rose, the same kind of bush that would cost you $30 or $40 in a pretty pot this spring. In about 8 weeks, that stick will have roots like a little head of white hair, and by next summer it will be a blooming rose all its own, and the whole thing costs me nothing but the soda pop. But stay with me to the end, because the reason that bottle works better than any fancy propagation kit comes down to one simple thing a fresh cutting cannot do for itself. The bottle does it for the cutting. Once you hear what that one thing is, you will understand exactly why so many rose cuttings die in a glass of water on the windowsill. I'm Debra Wilson. I've been growing flowers for more than 50 years, ever since I was a little girl at my Grandma Hazel's elbow here in Tennessee, and these days my yard is the most colorful one on the block. Grandma rooted her roses under glass jars straight out of the pantry, and this soda bottle is just her old method wearing modern clothes. Now, honey, let me tell you why this little project is worth your Saturday morning. Go price a nice rose bush at the garden center this spring. The named varieties in the 2-gallon pots run $30, $40, sometimes $50 a piece. If you want a whole row of them along a fence, you are looking at hundreds of dollars for something your grandmother would have grown for free. And that is exactly what she did. 50 years ago, hardly anybody bought a rose if a neighbor already had one. You admired it over the fence, you asked politely, and you walked home with a cutting wrapped in a wet dish rag. A year later, that very same rose was blooming in your own yard. Now maybe you have tried this yourself. You snipped a pretty stem, stood it in a drinking glass of water on the kitchen windowsill, and waited. 2 weeks later, you had a slimy brown stick and a sour smell, and you decided rose cuttings just were not for you. Honey, it was never you. It was the glass of water, and the reason ties right back to that one thing a cutting cannot do for itself. Hold that thought, because when we get there, this whole method will click into place. Today, I am going to walk you through every step, right here at my pink climber, one small thing at a time. Anyone can do this. I promise you that. Now, the way I care for a rose, from a bare little cutting all the way to a bush loaded with blooms, comes right out of a little book I wrote called Debra's 30-Day Bloom Protocol. It is my gentle day-by-day system for turning big, leafy, stubborn plants into bloomers in 30 days, built on the old pantry and shed methods my Grandma Hazel used, and written out plain for hydrangeas, roses, peonies, dahlias, and perennials. The first week teaches you to diagnose before you feed, with the simple soil test Grandma swore by and the sun audit that changes everything. The second week walks you through your corrections, feeding for flowers the honest way and making the right cut at the right time. Weeks 3 and 4, keep your hands steady while the buds come, with one simple bloom page for each flower. It is 122 pages, and right now it is $17, marked down from $47. $17 against another whole summer of leaves and no flowers. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, honey, let's get our hands in the dirt. Step 1 happens right at the rose bush with the pruning shears. The best cutting comes from a stem that just finished blooming. When a rose flower fades and the petals drop, the wood underneath is at the perfect in-between stage, not too soft and not too hard, and that wood roots faster than anything else on the bush. Look for a stem about as thick as a pencil that is your measure, right out of the kitchen drawer. Go out in the cool of the morning while the plant is still full of water from the night. Cut a piece 6 to 8 inches long. 6 to 8 inches, about the length of a table knife. Make your cut just below a node. A node is nothing mysterious, honey. It is just the little bump on the stem where a leaf comes out, and it is where the new roots will want to grow. Drop your cutting straight into a bucket of clean water so it never dries out while you work. If you are taking cuttings from a friend's rose across town, wrap them in a wet paper towel inside a plastic bag, and they will ride home just fine. Once you are back at the potting bench, the cutting needs a little haircut. Snip off the old faded flower at the top. We do not want the cutting spending one bit of energy on a bloom right now. Then take off all the leaves along the lower part of the stem. Leave just one set of leaves up at the top, and if those leaflets are big, trim them back by about half with your scissors. Fewer leaves means less work for a stem that has no roots yet, and in a minute you will see just how much that matters. Now here is a little trick from Grandma Hazel's potting shed. Take your thumbnail or the edge of your shears and scrape a thin strip of the green skin off one side of the stem right down near the bottom inch. Just a light scrape, about an inch long, until you see the pale layer underneath. Roots love to grow from a little wound like that. Then dip the bottom 2 inches in rooting powder if you have it. A little jar costs about $5 at the hardware store and lasts for years. And if you do not have it, do what Grandma did and dab the cut end in plain honey. Her cuttings took just fine for 50 years. Now for the pot. Any clean pot about 1 gallon in size will do, as long as it has drainage holes in the bottom. What matters is the soil. Straight potting soil holds too much water for a cutting, and too much water is how cuttings rot. So mix it half and half. Half regular potting soil, half coarse sand or perlite, that white crunchy stuff sold in bags right next to the soil. Half and half, honey, that is the whole recipe. Fill your pot, then water it well and let it drain before the cutting ever goes in. Planting into pre-moistened soil means you will not have to flood the pot afterward and wash your cuttings sideways. Take a pencil and poke a hole in the middle of the pot. Slide your cutting down into that hole 2 to 3 inches deep, so at least one of those little nodes is under the soil. 2 to 3 inches, no deeper. Then press the soil gently around the stem with your fingers, like tucking in a quilt. And now comes our star, the 2-liter soda bottle. Take an empty bottle, peel the label off, and rinse it out. With kitchen scissors, cut the bottom off about an inch up from the base. Careful with that first poke of the scissors. Take your time. There is no hurry. Now set the bottle upside right over your cutting, like a little glass dome, and twist it about an inch down into the soil so it stands snug. And listen, this part matters. The cap stays on, screwed on tight. I know that feels backward, like the poor thing needs air, but that cap is a bigger deal than it looks, and I will tell you exactly why before we are done, because it is the whole secret of this method. So where does the pot go? This is where good people lose good cuttings. That bottle is a tiny greenhouse now, and a tiny greenhouse in full sun will cook your cutting like a Sunday roast. So the pot goes in bright shade. The north side of the house is lovely. Under a shade tree is lovely. A covered porch with good light works too. A touch of gentle morning sun is fine, but no hot afternoon sun, none at all. For water, check the pot about twice a week. Lift the bottle off, poke your finger an inch into the soil, and if it feels dry down there, Give it a gentle drink and set the bottle back. You will notice you hardly ever need to water, and there is a wonderful reason for that, which is coming with our secret at the end. Moist but never soggy, that is the rule. If you ever see green mold on the soil, lift the bottle for an hour to air things out, then set it right back. And then, honey, comes the hardest step of all. Waiting. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, that cutting will just sit there looking like a stick in a jar, and you will be tempted to pull it up and peek. Do not pull it, I beg you. Around week 3 or 4, if things are going well, you will see the first happy sign, a tiny new leaf unfolding at the top, bright red or fresh green. New growth on top usually means new roots underneath. At 6 weeks, you may give it the gentle tug test. Take the bottle off, hold the stem with 2 fingers, and pull upward so softly you would not wake a sleeping baby. If the cutting resists you, roots have taken hold. If it slides, tuck it back in, put the bottle on, and give it 2 more weeks. Somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks, most rose cuttings under a bottle are rooted and pushing new leaves. 6 to 8 weeks, start to finish, for a rose bush that would have cost you $40. And that brings us to the part I promised you at the start, the one thing a fresh cutting cannot do for itself. A cutting has no roots. None. Which means it cannot drink one single drop of water. But its leaves never got that news. Leaves lose water into the air all day long, the same way your breath fogs up a cold window. So every cutting is in a quiet race. It is drying out through its leaves faster than it can drink, because it cannot drink at all, and it must grow roots before it runs dry. In the open air, or standing in that glass on the windowsill with its leaves out in the dry kitchen air, the cutting loses the race and rots or shrivels. But under that sealed soda bottle with the cap screwed on tight, the air inside fills up with moisture until it can hold no more. And once the air around the leaves is that full, the leaves simply stop losing water. The race stops. The cutting can sit there for weeks, patient as can be, with all its strength going into growing roots. That is the whole secret, honey. The bottle drinks for the cutting until the cutting can drink for itself, and that cap becomes your training tool at the end. Once your tug test passes, unscrew the cap for 1 week so a little dry air sneaks in and the new roots learn to work. The 2nd week, tip the bottle crooked. The 3rd week, take it off for good, and in fall, plant your new rose wherever you want color for the next 30 years. And that little bit of patience right there is exactly how my whole book works, one gentle day at a time, for every flower in your yard. Debra's 30-day bloom protocol takes big, leafy, stubborn plants and walks them into bloom in 30 days using the same old pantry and shed ways Grandma Hazel taught me, written out plain for hydrangeas, roses, peonies, dahlias, and perennials. It is $17, marked down from $47, and one rooted cutting from today already paid you back double. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there it is, 1 pencil-thick stem, 1 pot of half soil and half sand, 1 soda bottle with the cap on tight, and 6 to 8 weeks of patience buys you a free rose bush. Now tell me something in the comments, honey. Did your mother or your grandmother have her own way of rooting roses or sharing cuttings with the neighbors? Share it below. Those little family ways are exactly the kind of thing worth keeping, and I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you exactly where to make one little cut after a rose bloom fades, down to one special leaf on the stem, because that one cut is the difference between a bush that blooms once in June and a bush that keeps blooming all the way to frost. Now go on out there and get your hands in the dirt, honey. I'll see you in the garden.